Here's the practical step. Look around at your life right now. Where are you trying to go fast alone? Is it in your job where you're taking on everything because you don't trust others to handle it? Is it in your family where you're holding all the responsibilities because you think you have to be the strong one? True leadership is learning to let go, to trust, to empower. Because when you bring people with you, you don't just create results, you create a legacy. So we've covered two pieces of advice so far. Leadership is about caring for others, not controlling them. And leadership is about going together, not racing alone. Both are short, both fit within 10 seconds. And yet, both can completely redefine how you show up in your everyday life. Now, in the next part, we're going to dive into another perspective, something that reveals why leadership is less about having all the answers and more about asking the right questions. This one might just surprise you because it's not about control, it's about curiosity. What if I told you the best leadership advice you'll ever hear takes less than 10 seconds? Not a book, not a seminar, not a long lecture. Just a few words that could completely change the way people see you, the way you inspire, and even the way you see yourself. Most people think leadership is about power and control. But the truth? It's about something far more human. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to share the kind of wisdom that, once you hear it, you'll never forget. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to be a CEO, a manager, or someone with a fancy title to be a leader. Leadership isn't about a position. Leadership is about influence. It's about how you make people feel, how you inspire action, and how you live by example. Every single one of us has the capacity to lead, whether it's in our families, in our friendships, in our communities, or in the workplace. So, in this video, I want to share with you something powerful. The best leadership advice that can literally fit into 10 seconds. But here's the catch. It's not about rushing through wisdom. It's about understanding that even the smallest idea, when lived fully, can transform everything. I'm going to guide you through quotes, principles, and little sparks of insight, like one from Simon Sinek, whose work on Start With Why has inspired millions. Each piece will feel like someone just dropped a truth bomb right into your hands. And together, by the end of this video, you'll have a toolkit of leadership lessons so sharp and so simple. You'll never look at your role as a leader the same way again. So, let's start with this. What if the way you lead has nothing to do with how loud your voice is? So we've already seen how leadership isn't about control, but about care, and how it's not about racing ahead alone, but walking together towards something greater. Now let's go deeper, because there's another piece of advice that might surprise you. And it's this. Great leaders don't always give answers. Great leaders ask better questions. Here's the quote. The quality of a leader is reflected in the questions they ask, not the answers they give. Think about that for a moment. We live in a culture where leaders are often expected to know everything, to have the perfect plan, to provide instant solutions. But the truth? No one has all the answers. And pretending you do actually weakens trust, because people see right through it. Real leadership, instead, is about curiosity. Being willing to ask, to listen, to learn alongside your team, your family, or even yourself. Imagine this. You're sitting in a brainstorming meeting. One type of leader walks in and declares, "Here's what we're going to do, follow it." Another walks in and asks, "What ideas do you all have? What am I missing? How do you see it?" Which leader would you feel more connected to? Which room would you want to be in? The lesson here is simple but profound. When you ask better questions, you invite people to invest in the process. You give them ownership. You tell them, without saying a word, that their perspective matters. And that's where real innovation and loyalty are born. Now, let's connect this to the next piece of advice, one that often gets overlooked. It's short, sharp, and it comes from John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. Isn't that beautiful? Notice what's missing here. He doesn't say if your title inspires others. He doesn't say if your authority inspires others. No, he says your actions. And that's the heart of leadership in less than 10 seconds. People follow what you do more than what you say. You can talk all day about teamwork, but if you refuse to roll up your sleeves when things get tough, your words fall flat. You can preach about integrity, but if your actions don't match, people notice. One of the best leaders I've ever seen wasn't flashy. They weren't the loudest voice in the room. In fact, they were often the quietest, but their actions spoke volumes. They stayed late to help a struggling colleague. They admitted when they made a mistake. They celebrated small wins, not just big ones. And because of that, everyone around them felt braver, bolder, more capable. So here's the practical step for you. Take inventory of your actions. Ask yourself, what message do my daily habits send to the people around me? Do I inspire through consistency, through kindness, through courage? Or am I unintentionally sending the message that leadership is just about control? Because the truth is, every small action is a signal, and people are always watching, even when you think they aren't. Now, let's move into the next piece of advice, which builds directly on this. It's short, it's simple, and honestly, it could change the way you handle challenges for. So, how does this play out in everyday life? Maybe it means making sure your team has the resources they need before you focus on your own comfort. Maybe it means listening to your child's worries before unloading your own. Maybe it's as simple as making sure someone else is heard before you speak. These small acts of putting others first create bonds of trust that no paycheck, no speech, and no title ever could. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on where we are. So far in this journey of 10-second leadership truths, we've uncovered leadership is about care, not control. Leadership is about going far together, not fast alone. Great leaders ask better questions, not just give answers. Leadership is about actions that inspire, not titles that demand. And true leadership means serving others first. That's a lot of wisdom, all in a handful of words. But we're not done yet, because the final pieces of advice we're about to explore are going to tie this all together. They'll challenge the way you see yourself, not just as a leader of others, but as a leader of your own life. So stay with me, because in the next part, we'll discover why leadership isn't just about what you do for people. So here we are. We've walked through how leadership is rooted in care, in walking together, in asking better questions, in leading by action, and in serving others first. Those lessons already carry enough weight to reshape the way we live and lead. But there's one more shift we need to explore, and it's the one that ties everything together. It's this: leadership always begins with you. There's a quote I once heard that goes like this: "You cannot lead others until you can lead yourself." Now, on the surface, that sounds simple. But let's be honest, it's often the hardest part. Because leading yourself means discipline. It means clarity. It means knowing your why before you try to inspire someone else with theirs. Think about it. If your own values aren't clear, how can you expect anyone to trust your direction? If you say one thing but live another, why would anyone follow? Self-leadership is the foundation of all other leadership. And the most powerful leaders are the ones who take that seriously. Here's where Simon Sinek comes in again, because he's built an entire movement around one idea that can be shared in less than 10 seconds. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. That applies to products, companies, and missions, but it also applies to people. Your why is your anchor. It's the story that explains why you show up, why you care, why you push through when things get hard. And when you lead with that, people don't just hear your words, they feel your conviction. So here's the practical step. Take a moment and write down your why. Why do you want to lead? Why do you want to inspire? Why do you care about the people around you? When you know your answer, you don't have to force influence. People naturally follow clarity. Now let's move to another final truth, one that speaks to every single human being, no matter where they are in life. It's from Maya Angelou, and it goes like this: people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. If you've been searching for the heart of leadership, there it is, in less than 10 seconds. How you make people feel is the legacy you leave behind. Think about your own life. You may not remember every word a teacher told you, every piece of advice from a parent, every instruction from a mentor, but you remember how they made you feel. Maybe one made you feel small and afraid. Maybe another made you feel seen, valued, capable. Those feelings stay, sometimes for decades. That's the true power of leadership. It lives in emotion. So if you want to practice leadership every day, here's the simplest step. Leave people better than you found them. That might mean encouragement instead of criticism. It might mean patience instead of frustration. It might mean kindness in the smallest, quietest ways. You don't have to change the world with grand gestures. You just have to change the atmosphere of the moment you're in. And finally, let's end with one last piece of advice. Short and sharp. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. This one comes from John Maxwell, and it strips away the noise. Influence is the essence of leadership. You influence people with your words, your actions, your presence, your example. The question is, how are you using that influence? Are you using it to lift or to push down? To inspire or to control? To expand possibilities or to shrink them? When you remember that leadership is simply influence, it takes the pressure off. You don't need a title. You don't need a corner office. You don't need to wait for permission. You're influencing people every day, through your choices, through your tone, through your reactions. Leadership isn't something you start someday. It's happening right now, in this very moment. So let's bring this full circle. Here's what we've gathered in these handfuls of 10-second truths. Leadership is care, not control. It's about going far together, not fast alone. It's about asking questions, not pretending to have every answer. It's about actions that inspire, not titles that demand. It's about serving others first. It starts with leading yourself, with your why. It's about how you make people feel. And at its core, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. Each one of these ideas can be spoken in less than 10 seconds. But lived out? They can transform a life, they can transform a team, they can transform a legacy. So here's my encouragement to you. Don't wait for some big stage, some grand title, some perfect opportunity. Lead where you are. Lead who you are. Start today. Because the world doesn't just need more bosses. The world needs more leaders. Leaders who care, who serve, who inspire. Leaders like you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these short truths hit you the hardest? Which one do you want to carry into your own life this week? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them, and I'd love to know what resonates with you. And if this video gave you even one spark of insight, one shift in perspective, then give it a like. It helps more people find these ideas. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we've got more conversations like this, practical, simple, and powerful, that can help you grow not just as a leader, but as a human being. So thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, leadership isn't about titles, it's about influence, and you already have that. The question is, what will you do with it? Stay inspired, keep leading with heart, and I'll see you in the next video.